May I request you all rise, entire gathering. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your attention. This is a time for a welcome address. So I'm pleased to invite Chairman of Marine Environment Protection Authority, Attorney at Law, Mr. Asile B. Rakava, for welcome address. Please, podium is over to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me welcome my secretary, Mr. Satyananda, Secretary of the Urban Development and Housing, who is supervising and guiding us on a daily basis. And also, please let me welcome Mr. Ananda Malavatantri, Advisor to the Honorable President on Environment. Mr. Malavatantri has been guiding us, coordinating us, and spearheading all these operations. And I'm very thankful to Mr. Malavatantri for having our first IMT meeting at the Presidential Secretariat and agreeing to spearhead this operation, guide us to see a successful amendment of this contingency plan. And I'm very thankful to Vice Admiral Priyantha Perera, Commander of the Navy. Although Mr. Perera has gone to the different school, and I have gone to the best school in town, he has helped us, guided me right throughout. And although the school is better, I am not an expert on this field, and I'm getting insights of Mr. Perera on a daily basis. Whenever I'm doing something wrong, whenever I meet him, I go to him and ask advice, and he has guided me right through. Thank you, sir, for being present. And finally, I need to welcome Not finally, I need to welcome Mr. Gerard Rubello, Deputy Country Director, World Food Programme, without whom we would not have had the finances, the assistance to have this program. When I had this in mind, when I wanted to amend this NOSCOP, I reached out to his office and met Mr. Janath. And through Mr. Janath, I was lucky to meet Mr. Gerard, and he totally agreed to finance this particular program. And all my board of directors of MIPA and all my dear friends, I'm not going to name everyone. Nirmal is here, Ajit is here, Turney and panelists, all are here, so I'm not going to name everyone and waste the time. Because we are heading for a very truthful session, and my insights on this. I'm a lawyer, practicing. I was practicing in the courts of Sri Lanka. I was unaware of this marine environment and the protection laws. I came to this, and I'm like spearheading this operation. I'm very happy, and I'm privileged to be among this amount of experts, and I'm very thankful that to see all the chairmen, the heads of departments are present today. I think we have lastly updated this contingency plan in 2014. Although we have updated in 2014, we have had 2 marine disasters after that. So I think it is the time. The time has come for us to learn from all those accidents, and we have to put everything into this particular program, and we need to see an end-to-end solution. That is, from the time we get to know about a marine disaster and up to the point of filing an action. And also, when going through this process, we will understand what we are lacking. Are we prepared for another marine disaster? So I think after this session, we will have a basic document. We'll have a platform set up with all this information. Then with the guidance of, I think we are having another program starting from September 4th. The European Union delegation is coming to Sri Lanka. They'll have a 11-day program with us. So I will then, after we have our document ready, we'll go before them, and we will get their expertise also and see whether our document is in par with the internationally accepted regulations. So I think this program should not be a program to test anyone's language skills. I think we should not have a bar among ourselves whether we are speaking in Sinhala, we are speaking Tamil, or we are speaking in English. I think we need to put our expertise out, our knowledge out from the language we can speak. Not that we cannot speak English. Sometimes the most comfortable language would be Sinhala. Then if someone can put it out in Sinhala properly, please feel free to go ahead, because this is not a exercise to test our language skills. What I have done, I am going to video the entire 2-day program. Then the person who will be compiling this document will have 2-day footage to see and compile this particular document. Therefore, I will not waste my time. I will hand over this program to the people who are knowledgeable to conduct this program. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Individually, we are one drop. Together, we are an ocean. This is a time for keynote speech. It's a privilege to invite Dr. Ananda Mallavatantri for keynote speech, advisor to the President on Environment, Climate Change and Green Finance. President on Environment, Climate Change and Green Finance. Dr. Ananda Mallavatantri counts over 40 years of work experience. His career includes over 20 years in international development with USAID. UN and IUCN key positions he held include IUCN country representative in Sri Lanka, UNDP assistant resident representative for environment, sustainable and disaster resilience in Sri Lanka, and senior advisor and director for energy and environment at USAID Colombo. Currently, he serves as the advisor for President of Sri Lanka on environment, climate change, and green finance. Dr. Malavatantri holds a Bachelor of Science, special degree in chemistry, and a diploma in business administration from University of Colombo. He received his doctorate in soil physics and MS degree in environmental science from the Washington State University. In this regard, I pleased to invite Sir for the welcome speech. Sorry, keynote address.
Thank you very much. Good morning. First of all, I should thank Mr. Asela Rakava for giving a lot of confidence, putting a lot of confidence on us and the Presidential Secretariat that I represent. We'll be delighted to be with MIPA and in this process and add value. But most importantly, it's important that the multi-stakeholder, multi-sector approach you are having now. Congratulations. Mr. Satyananda, Secretary, Ministry of Urban Development and Housing, Vice Admiral Priyantha Pereira, Commander of the Navy, Mr. Gerald Robilo, Deputy Country Director, World Food Program, Dr. Sulakshana Jayawardena, Additional Secretary, Presidential Secretariat, Major General Sudhanta Ranasinghe, Director General, Disaster Management Center, Admiral Field Silva, former Commander of the Navy, Mr. Chandra Jayasundar, President Council, and Professor Tani Pradeep Kumara, now Department of Oceanography and Marine Geology in Rohana University, but above all, he was the former General Manager of the Marine Environment Protection Agency. So, distinguished invitees from armed forces, agencies, ladies and gentlemen. So, I have 10-15 minutes, which I'm trying to put a little bit of a background and provide few things for all of us to think through during this long exercise Asela has initiated. So, can I have my slides, please? Thanks. Oh, great. So basically, now we had the NOSCOP, National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. We have faced disasters with that. We saw the experience we had. So we had a lot of lessons with us. I think this is one of the advantages Sri Lanka has now. We have seen, we have experienced, we have seen the loopholes in our operations ourselves. It's not that somebody coming and telling us, you have this. But again, we need to think of the next generation, next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, where we are heading with this whole subject. Right, okay. So basically, our objective, I think we are getting into a fairly long exercise here to update the maritime disaster regulations and approach with an expanded focus. I think that's the key word, the expanded focus. That will bring many, many angles to this forum. And also bringing in these hazardous and noxious substances. Earlier we were harping on oil spills, but we see the statistics on the shipping accidents as getting down. But at the same time, the issues related to the noxious substances and things like that are picking up. Then we are going to add the LNGs and the nuclear into the mix when we are discussing. And then we are lucky to have the EU mission coming down, but it is not the end. There are many other agencies that are working on this area, like the UN Environment and others. Sri Lanka is very familiar. We could have third-party observations or involvement at the end, but having EU coming and walking us through many protocols, that will help us to start thinking ahead, thinking through. Then the preparedness, I think this is not single party or single person's business, or single country cannot do it anymore. So you need to have the international level approaches and multi-stakeholder and multi-sector. You need the industry. You need all kind of different, you don't even know who these stakeholders are once you start thinking only, you start seeing the fisherman to the farmer to the others going in the mix. So especially, this is one of the new interest areas, the hazardous and noxious substances. There are a couple of definitions we can borrow straight away and then focus. They can cause harm to human health or the environment. They can be flammable, explosive, toxic, corrosive, reactive, meaning we need different protocols, different training, different tools, different equipment to handle these. Each one is separate, so the preparedness is different. Knowledge is different. Noxious substances can cause to organisms we don't know we should know the biodiversity. I'm glad Samantha is sitting here. We need to know what we are dealing with, because some substances are more toxic to certain species than others. So we need to understand our baselines on the biodiversity baselines, what is out there. All these are important. And then the knowledge on the toxicity and the LD50 levels and all that comes to handy. With that knowledge, now we need to get into the contingencies, and then each country keep these things separately. If you start reading the material, different countries are focusing differently because their costs are different. When you go to Barrier Reef in Australia, you have a whole different approach on the disaster management in the marine there versus somewhere else where there are whales. So Sri Lanka also has huge diversity around the country in the geography, in the depths, in the ocean currents, all that. So now we are into modeling. We need plume modeling. We need international satellite data. I remember when we did the wind map for Sri Lanka, we used 2 kilometers upwind and model it downward. That's the wind map for Sri Lanka. We need to get into that kind of sophistication. For that, we need international knowledge and the satellites and everything else. I think some of you know this picture very well, who dealt with this sea lane with the shipping master and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Now we see the traffic south of Sri Lanka. I mean, it's not only here, but around Sri Lanka. But this is an example. And this is increasing. And we have the sea lane, and then some are going within our territories, some are going outside our territories. If anything goes wrong, whether you are within territory or outside territory, doesn't matter, because spill is a spill. And these ships go in different speeds, carry different material, and anything can happen. So then you have the nukes underwater. So we have to be prepared to anything that you can think. So this will tell us the gravity. These dots tell us the gravity. Why do we need to update? Because one of the reasons, the primary reasons is Sri Lanka is thinking ocean resources. Dr. Rani Pradeep Kumar is engaged in a marine spatial plan in these days to see what is out there, what can be done, and what safeguards that are required. So that exercise is already on. And we are thinking of sustainable environmental financing on those and investments to come in so that we can do green growth. So, but when you expand, it's inevitable that we will be using machinery, we will be using chemicals, we will be using all kinds of things. So that's a new paradigm for Sri Lanka. And then the changes in the type of accidents, we saw Express Pearl and few things around us. Now this is something that we never thought it will happen around here, but we need to think of the different types that could, different options, different scenarios, and capitalize on the regional strength. We have a lot of strength around us. I think we saw in the Express Pearl and all that, but we need to consolidate. We need to make sure that you can't assume that they will have enough stocks for us. So that kind of things. Then the information, monitoring technologies, I think we did talk about it. Then we have another aspect. I think our Army and certain forces have that experience. We serve in other countries under UN forces and all that. Now, can we use that model? Because that's something that we could expand and then be a force in the region so that we could respond and help the others as and when needed. It doesn't hurt to have that capacity. I think the donors and the countries will help us strategically to have this strong maritime response around here because there's a huge strategic advantage. So we can capitalize on that in our plan, and then we can build a little bit more extra beyond our immediate needs. Then there are a lot of lessons. This is not a new subject anymore. What we are doing is formatting the global knowledge to our grounds. So there are few things that I borrowed from different countries, and everyone has certain common features that we can use. Basically, it's develop national capacity, but extending a little bit, as I said. And then coordinate among the hierarchy of responders. This list is long here in Sri Lanka. And then have a good solid headquarters. We have the Disaster Management Center established in here. It has the whole Disaster Management Act and things like that. But we need to see how the marine stuff is going to get, how are we going to position all that in this big scope of things? Because oil spill is one of the 17 disasters in the Act. So then the National Response Team is responsible for all the technical information. Now in other disasters, Med Department give the advisors, the National Building Research give advisors to DMC to distribute. But how that will play out in the marine and coastal is a key. And then subcommittee structures, because this is a complex subject. You need the science people, you need the response people, like many research modeling people. So there will be multiple number of subcommittees because subcommittees are converging at the end to operationalize this plan. And then during an emergency, we need the roles, or even preparedness, we need the roles very clearly defined. And then the training courses and the things like that, frequently updated with the international collaborations to conduct these things. And then the response teams can be multi-layered. I think the MEPA already used the 3-tier system on the oil spill, but we could have different way of looking at it. And then we can go to the different levels and bring different organizations and the users. I mean, who are the users of all these things? We need to bring the users and also to get them to pay for some of them. And then the share expertise and resources to ensure that response team are efficient and then are capable of minimize the threats to the human lives and the biodiversity and etc. So there are differences. I just wanted to highlight when you are responding, different hazards have different. So that's why we need to have plethora of scenarios modeled, practiced, rehearsed many a times, because different climatic seasons the whole operation is different because your climate is impacting differently. Your wind patterns are different. The Indian Ocean behave differently. And then we are talking about temperature changes. And when you have chemicals, temperature matters. So the dilution factors, diffusion, all those things are required. And so oil spills, hazardous material contingencies, they are different protocols. So each one, when we develop the plans, there will be a lot of protocols. But the beauty is all these things are out there in the internet. So it's a matter of, as I said, it's formatting and selecting what is appropriate for us. There are several things that we can capitalize on. The incident command system is well practiced. It started with the US Forest Service and now global. I think it was brought in here also through the Disaster Management Center a while ago. We could expand it. There are multiple versions of how do you do incident commands. And then one is like you have site-specific commanding systems. Very specialized. If it is in the Bar Reef, the command is different. If you are in a different area, the command is different, but supported centrally. All these interactions need to be done. And then the most important part, how do you draw money? How do you draw funds? Now, this is a huge dialogue that I think you should start deliberating now rather than later. Taking a plan to the Treasury, then also discussing like how you take it to the Treasury. I think so you will have to start thinking this because establishing trust funds, you know, it's not easy in Sri Lanka. But you need to think about it. And most of the time, these funds are getting enriched through different channels, continuously get enriched, so that you have the capacity to keep adequate stocks, have adequate response capacity, and pay for the services, the satellite services and the things that are required to make a good operation. And then connections between the agencies now, Department of Wildlife Conservation and many others, Coast Guard, Navy. I think you need, you need a coherent team with clear responsibilities and buddies in all things. I think the good part is when you have this kind of dialogues, you get the buddies established. Then something happens, it's like the official plus the friendship. I think that works, and we know how it works in Sri Lanka. There are a lot of material you need to inventorize, keep it updated, throw out the outdated material frequently, not to keep anything that you need and find that at the time of you need it's expired and not usable. These are common dangerous practices. We need to have the inventories, and you could find these inventories, very extensive inventories and the suppliers where you could buy those things. Those are all out there. So, but you cannot, when you have suppliers, the government has rules. Now we need to find ways to pre-select or pre-qualify these suppliers and have them ready rather than trying to go 3 quotations at the time you need. I think these are the type of things that we need to be mindful. Those small, those can be the Achilles heel in many operations. Then area and regional specific contingency plans. We had to work with the Indian forces, and then we had to work with the regional forces from Australia down, and I think already our forces have excellent relationships. I think we should capitalize on those linkages and have practices, rehearsals and all that. And then the media and the public, how do you handle it? It's very important because there are a lot of misinformation getting pumped due to the unawareness of the things and wrong people talking at the wrong time. We have seen it, and then so that we know the damage, because we need to have the legal parts. I'm glad the Deputy Solicitor General is here in this workshop today. So that needs to be figured out, what happened in the legal side when you have this kind of situation. That's also part of the contingency. And then the most important part, this is the capacity building. Now, capacity building, I think the whole team and the whole work, throughout, we need to start dreaming. This is a very simple system. This is the UNDP capacity building matrix. What you do is like you just see where you are today and then start dreaming. What would be 10 years down the road? I have a friend who works in 3M in the state of Minnesota, in USA. He goes to work and he's a Russian. He works, his job is to go and think 25 years ahead. He goes to the office, he shuts the office, and he goes 25 years. So he comes and says like, okay, there could be a product that we can make and sell in 25 years. So like, I mean, the notepad, the post-it notepad was a mistake, you know that. They made a gum, it is not drying. So they said like, okay, if it is not drying, let's do this, and then became the post-it. You can keep years and then still it will stick, non-drying gum. So like this, do think ahead. Now that's what you do here. Because disasters will be different, the ships will be different, their oils will be different, they will carry different things. So these are the things to think. And the biodiversity. With the climate change, the biodiversity will be different. So then you come back and put under each one, your equipment need, technologies, knowledge, funds, and human resources under each. So what are the things you need by midpoint? What are the capacities? What are the capacities you need to have when you, at the end of your dream? This is a very simple exercise. When you do this, you will get a list of equipment, list of technologies, list of things as knowledge you need. Then you start finding, okay, where can I get it? Where can I get it? Who will be our partner? Are you going to partner with NASA, or are you going to partner with Japanese satellites or Indian satellites? So who are the partners? Then your whole work plan start evolving nicely. So in conclusion, I'd like to highlight a few things and get out. As much as we can, we should study the other plans. Most of them are on the internet. They are so different. So we need one or two people get buried on that and then start picking what is relevant to us. And that team also should have different capacities and different wavelengths so that they will not miss things. And then learn the roles and function of the Sri Lankan counterparts. The disaster management center roles versus the coast conservation and coastal resource management department role and the fisheries and aquatic resource management role, all these are different. Now how do you bring and match? And then the roles of the WFP, role of FAO on the maritime, and then another agency. You should see this whole picture. You can map it in different way. And then negotiate, as I said, set up the fund. And then put MIPA in the middle and see how big you want to be or how small you want to be to deliver that. Then you start realizing who you are, and you can negotiate with the others. Sometimes some roles can be delegated, and you could do a little bit of a facilitation rather than trying to do everything and get into trouble. So these are the lessons we have seen. And then the partnership with the countries, agencies, industries, and others, and get to that dialogue. Now, for example, recently we had a dialogue with Hawaii. There's a thing called East-West Center. I think some of you have gone and get qualified on different things. And then we were talking about setting up the climate change university in Sri Lanka with the policy dialogue and the research. They said, like, if possible, you go and park your thing in the Indian Ocean and then become our sister we cover Pacific very well, so maybe you cannot mimic totally, but at least you have a model that you can port. Now, here also, I think we could learn from many other operating organizations and then bring some of those models to this region. And then specific plans for sensitive ecosystems, because Sri Lanka has certain things that we need to protect. anyway. You know, I think Dr. Ten Pradeep Kumar knows all these things, and few others in Sri Lanka who are good divers. I think our former command is there. So I think you guys, so you guys have done, you know where the corals are, you know the depths and all that, you know where the sea cables are. So all these things matter. So then uncertainties, no uncertainties is allowed in contingencies because you need to know exactly what you do. Otherwise, incident command systems cannot operate. Then provide the technical expertise, as I said, to others. So I think we should aim for that. At least then we will have good systems for us. So I think these are some of the ideas I wanted to plant in your head as Sela requested for me to do. So also, I think Sri Lanka has a lot of lessons. Operation Center in Disaster Management Center that we were involved in, I think after tsunami. I was in UNDP at that time. So we helped to establish that. And there are a lot of lessons can be learned how to operate Operation Center. If you want to have something else or augment that into that system, I think we need to start thinking. And also we are seeing this need to bring the fragmentation together. We have certain, we have issues, the challenges in the ministry structures, and also to need bring the certain agency functions together. I think that will come in the next generation policy and practices in Sri Lanka, but until such time, I think the focus, next generation NOSCOP, will get us a lot of knowledge onto the table, and then probably some of this knowledge can be used in other areas also. So good luck, and it's a great pleasure and honor to be part of this exercise. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for the productive informations and guidance for the forum on this updating National Oil Spill Contingency Workshop. With every drop of water you drink, every breath you take, you are connected to the sea, no matter wherever you are in the world. This 2 days workshop, organized with the collaboration of World Food Programme. This is a time to invite Mr. Gerard Rabello, Deputy Country Director of World Food Programme, to speak about World Food Programme Sri Lanka's collaborative activities with Marine Environment Protection Authority.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. Good morning to you all. It is indeed an honor to be here at this National Oil Spill Contingency Planning Workshop. As has been said before, emergency preparedness has never been more important than it is today. This country has lived through numerous challenges in the recent past, most recently the COVID pandemic, as well as the unfortunate economic crisis. But as we all know, events always teach us an important lesson. And in this case, preparing for emergencies is critical to safeguarding communities and, of course, the development gains. But emergency preparedness is not just a plan on a shelf. As Asela mentioned to me earlier, it is about keeping it updated, keeping it aligned with what's happening in the world, the climate change, technologies, and being ever ready to utilize it. It is an ongoing series of activities to identify risks and develop contingency plans which address today's risks. Today's workshop is an example of this. Preparing for emergencies is a critical part of WFP's efforts to supporting the government of Sri Lanka and enhancing capacities to respond to a crisis before it becomes a disaster. WFP provides technical assistance to the Ministry of Disaster Management, MEPA, and other disaster management agencies to strengthen national emergency management through better risk reduction mechanisms and operational tools. WFP brings this experience from various operations globally where we support various governments, the national disaster management agencies, and the like. WFP is also supported with streamlining the emergency management framework through the implementation of the National Emergency Operational Plan, the NEOP. What we bring to the table specifically is on information management, the development of assessment tools, scenario-based contingency planning, and relief management planning and response. All of us here today are aware of the unfortunate incident of the MV Express Pearl, which had a significant and direct impact on Sri Lanka's coastal environment, local communities, and the economy. WFP, in collaboration with the Department of Fisheries and Aquatic Research, conducted a study on the effects of MV Express Pearl incident. The findings are worrying. Many of you are probably aware, 82% of households living in affected areas lost their livelihoods as a result of restrictions in fishing, of which majority lost their income for over a month. And this is where the connection with WFP comes in. Probably many of you are wondering, why is the World Food Program linked with National Oil Spill Contingency Planning? But there is a strong connection. The incident affected food security in two ways. Reduced incomes for those who rely on fishing as their primary livelihood. A shortage of fish as a source of essential nutrition. Probably we didn't think of it, but this is an angle where WFP comes in. These findings highlight the devastation caused by oil spills, which affect marine environments and organisms, requiring billions of dollars as short and long-term recovery costs, but also a lot of opportunity costs that are also lost. WFP has been working with the MEPA to enhance maritime disaster preparedness and response since 2019, and today's workshop is part of that ongoing support. I'm going to end shortly, but I just wanted to bring in the personal side to this. This topic resonates with me and is very close to my heart. As a qualified master mariner and over about 11 years of experience as a seafarer, I have lived through this. I happened to started my seagoing career as an 18-year-old, little after the Exxon Valdez oil spill, which many of you might recall. And I think the Oil Pollution Act of 1990, the USC GCFR 33, and all those regulations started coming when I was a young cadet. And topics such as MARPOL, etc., were what we were doing a lot on. And as a young cadet, especially preparing during bunkering operations, having oil spill contingency equipment, which you just mentioned about, those days they were little booms, and we talked a lot about oil spill dispersants, but this was still a highlight at that time. A lot has moved on since then. As you said, those days we talked about oil spill. We didn't talk about noxious. We talked about hazardous, but noxious has come in as well in the last 20 years. So a lot has happened, and like I said, this resonates closely with me. So I guess in whatever way WFP can support, you also have my personal support in whatever way I can. With that, I think we have a room full of experts who will contribute to developing a robust contingency plan which will address oil and hazardous noxious substance pollution, whether it originates from ships, harbors, or offshore units. And with this, let me end here, wishing you all a productive workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Collaborating with Marine Environment Protection Authority. and we hope to expect your further support from the Sri Lanka country strategic plan of World Food Program from 2023 to 2027. Thank you very much again, and this is a time to explain the workshop plan on updating National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. For this, it's a privilege to invite Professor Terni Pradeep Kumara, University of Ruhunu, and former General Manager of Marine Environment Protection Authority.
Good morning to you all. Secretary UDA, Mrs. Satyananda, he just left, I think, and additional secretaries to Presidential Secretariat. Advisor to the President, Dr. Ananda Malavithantri, he's a keynote speaker, and again, Admiral P.L. Silva, both are resource persons for this workshop. And Commander of Sri Lanka Navy, Vice Admiral Priyantha Pereira. And Director Generals, Disaster Management Center, Coast Conservation Department, Department of Fisheries are with us today. And again, Deputy Country Representative, World Food Program, Gerald Robello. And NIMPA Chairman MIPA and Director General Manager MIPA. And higher ranking officers of Sri Lanka Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force, Sri Lanka Army, and Sri Lanka Police, Director Environment, Sri Lanka Police, and all government sector representatives, sector experts, ladies and gentlemen. So you might remember this picture. I hope you know this picture. This is Wakashiho in Mauritius. I was fortunate to snorkel in this place 2 weeks ago before this incident. And as Dr. Malavithantri mentioned, we are very much closer to one of the greatest, one of the busiest ocean ship highways. So per day, there are about 350 ships go up and down connecting east and west. And we are like sitting on a crater of a volcano. Anytime, anywhere, any ship's disaster can happen. That may lead to oil spill or any sort of other maritime disasters. The problem is, are we prepared? The next question is, in Sri Lanka, we are mainly depending on ocean resources, especially fisheries, tourism, and even our culture. We are very much bound to the ocean. And what is seen in the ocean is very much less, but what is unseen under water is extreme. I am glad to see two of major divers sitting with me in this forum. Priyantha Pereira is a commander of Sri Lanka Navy, and P.L. Silva, the expert divers, and they have seen what we have in our oceans. But the problem is, are we really prepared to protect them, our resources? So for that, MIPA, we have established a program called National Oil Spill Contingency Plan, NOSCOP. So it was originally planned in 2003 after a number of amendments. 2014, we amended it for the last time, but from there onwards, there was no any amendments. But in between, you might remember how many ship disasters happened. We had some oil spill incidents in Usatekeyawa, some in Dikkovita. Then you might remember New Daniela, nobody knew it, Harbour Master. So we brought the ship to Colombo Harbour. And then New Diamond, that's the first time we learned the gravity of, the country felt the gravity of these marine disasters. Then well-known Express Pearl. So up to that point, up to Express Pearl, we were discussing about oil spills. Sri Lanka had oil spill contingency plan. But after that, Express Pearl was the largest nurdle spills in the world. At the same time, is one of the worst chemical disaster happened in Sri Lankan waters. So at that time, we understood that we've been talking about to add HNS to our oil spill contingency plan, but there was no any solid actions taken. But now we have come to a juncture that is a must to have oil spill contingency plan, at the same time to add all disasters coming from noxious chemicals that may affect our ocean and the resources, not only these two, the whole socio-economic condition of the country. So here we are today to do that. So therefore I know we have all the sectors experts here. So this is a workshop, but I would like to see it there in a workshop. Rather than a workshop, it should be a talk shop, as Chairman Meepa mentioned. Other මේ workshop එකේ අපිට තියෙන්නේ ඔක්කොටම කතා කරන්න වෙනවා. 2 days, that's why we invited you. එතකොට අපිට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න මේ NOSCOP එකේ තිබුණු ප්‍රශ්න ටික. ඒ වගේම අපේ sectors වල තිබුණු අපේ issues. අපිට ආයිම මේ වගේ incident එකක් හෝ මොන හරි දෙයක් ආවොතින් අපි හරියටම NOSCOP එක drill කරා. අපි පුරුදු කරා. ඒ වගේම we have documents in our hand. But in a real case, did we really apply it as it is? එහෙම වුණාද කියන ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවා. නමුත් මීට අනාගතයේ මෙහෙම වෙද්දි ආයිම එක්ස්ප්‍රස් පර්ල් එකක් හෝ නිව් ඩයමන්ඩ් හෝ වකෂුවෝ එකක් අපි ලංකාවට එන්න අපි ආස නැහැ. ඒත් අර මම කිව් ප්‍රමාණයේ නැව් එහාම ලංකාව හරහා යද්දි එහෙම වෙන්න හැකියාවකුත් තියෙනවා අපිට අයිම සෙටක්. ඒතකොට ඒක කරන්න අපි really prepared. එහෙනම් අද අපේ මොකද්ද මේ කාර්යය වෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා මම කිව්වොත් අපි අද ඔක්කොම අපේ we have all the stakeholders sitting with us and they know what are their agency responsibilities are. And we have all the SOPs in place. නමුත් ඇත්තට මේ කරන්න ගියාට පස්සේ we have to invent the wheel again. That's what experience in Express Pearl. That's what we experience in New Diamond. We are Sri Lankans, sorry, but we used to point fingers to each other. We have to stop it, please. Now this is our country, we have to protect it. So we have to get together. So without, blaming each other, without finding faults in these systems, let's work for that and let's fix a common system where we can work together. And in that system, all have our own space. We don't want to outcompete any. Please understand that. තර මේ workshop එකේ මම එකයි කිව්වේ මෙතන අපි civil වෙන්න පුළුවන්, military වෙන්න පුළුවන්, whatever අපේ legal වෙන්න පුළුවන්, අපි හැමෝම අපේ space එක තියෙනවා. තර space එක හදා ගන්න ඕන අපිට. තර ඒ space එක හදා ගන්නදී මේ workshop එකේ මම එකයි කිව්වේ we have to talk. අපිට කතා. අපිට it might be bitter, but we have to talk. Therefore we have lots of in the workshop. That's why we plan the workshop with lots of discussion sessions. In the discussions අපි කතා කරමු. We will find all our lapses, loopholes, and try to fill it up. Therefore, within these 2 days, I expect all of you to be here, even tomorrow afternoon by 4 p.m. The whole should be filled. Ada lunch වලින් පස්සේ වක්වත් හෙට උදේවක්වත් වෙද්දි මේකේ භාගයක් වෙන්න බෑ සාමාන්‍ය ශ්‍රී ලංකන් workshop එකක් වගේ. ඒ නිසා please, this is a national issue. අපි දන්නවා. ඒ නිසා my first request for all of you is to be with us for the whole 2 days. And come up with a solid program. That's what Asela mentioned. That's Asela wanted. That's what Meepa wanted. That's what Sri Lanka wanted. Please, therefore, I really expect your support and your contribution for the whole 2 days, and come up with some sort of solid program of solid working scheme where all can work without overlappings, without fighting, and all have your own stake, and you should know it. And then we should allow each other to perform their all duties without any lapses. That's what the main objective. So මේ workshop එක අද මගේ කතාවෙන් පස්සේ මම හිතා ටී එකට නවත්තන. ඊට පස්සේ ටී එකෙන් පස්සේ first session එක පටන් ගන්නේ resource person වෙන්නේ අද්දුනල් පියල් සිල්වා. එයා කතා කරાવી different maritime hazards ගැන. අපිට තියෙන. ඒතකොට අපි මෙච්චර කතා කරේ oil spills ගැන. oil කියන එක is a one single component. But when it goes to chemical, it's all millions of chemicals, whether it's nuclear, radioactive, other noxious, whatever, even some chemicals that is not harmful, but all are chemicals. It's so complex. So එතෙන්ටත් අපිට යන්න වෙනවා මේකෙදි. ඒතර අද lunch වලින් පස්සේ ආයිම Admiral P.R. Silva will take the floor to discuss about marine casualty management. How we manage it, what are the resources we are having, what is MRCC, what's their role. So we have the DMC Ops Room, what's their role, Air Force Ops Room, Navy Ops Room, and how we work hand to hand, and those things will be discussed in this afternoon. So අද දවසේ අපි ඒ ටික කරාට පස්සේ අපි හෙට උදේ කතා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මේ වර්ක්ෂොප් එකේ දෙවෙනි දවසේ මම හිතන ඔක්කොම ඉදී කියලා. ජගත් ගුණසේකර ජෙනරල් මැනේජර් මීපා will take over the floor and අපි කතා කරනවා tier concept එක. tier 1 2 3 ඒතර tier 1 2 3 oil spill වලට කොහොමද oil tier 1 2 3 chemical spills වලට කොහොමද එන්නේ කියලා අපි කතා කරනවා. ඒකේ theory part එක. ඒකට මම අපි කලින් කතා කර විදිහට මේකේ ඔක්කොම theory parts ඔක්කොම background information web එකේ දැන් තියෙනවා මම හිතන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඩවුන්ලෝඩ් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද මේක කරන්න අනිවාර්යෙන් අපිට background knowledge එක information අනිවාර්යෙන් අවශ්‍යයි. මේ නිසා අසෙලා තියෙනවනේ මම හිතන්නේ ඔක්කොම web එකේ තියෙනවා. ඩවුන්ලෝඩ් කරගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකෝර oil and HNS ගැන කතා කරන ජගත් ඊට පස්සේ division of responsibilities අපේ ආයතන වලට තියෙන responsibility මොනවද? ඒතර where we are fitting from the way the time we collect information up to the legal step. A procedure එක ජගත් කතා කරනවා. ඊට පස්සේ in the afternoon tomorrow the most important and innovative part is discussing about HNS, harmful noxious substances, that will be taken by Professor Ajit Alvis and the team. තර ඒගොල්ලෝ කතා කරයි ඒ වගේම Atomic Energy Agency, CPC, ඒ වගේම ඊට අදාළ agencies ටික කතා කරයි. මේකේ තියෙන ඒක තියෙන characters, risks, how to handle them, what sort of response mechanisms we need, and what sort of protective mechanism we have to take. That will be discussed by that team tomorrow after lunch. Then after lunch, before lunch, after lunch from 1 to 1:50. Then 2 to 2:15, Nara will take over the floor to discuss about damage assessment and restoration. Mainly, how to restore damaged ecosystems at the same time to damage assessment. So එතෙන්දී අපිට experience තියෙනවා නාරකට මීප එකට තියෙනවා wildlife තියෙනවා ඒ කට්ටිය මෙතන ඉන්න මම හිතන්නේ මධ්‍යම පරිසර අධිකාරී CE තියෙනවා ඒගොල්ලෝ කතා කරાવી what are the damages, how to assess them and come up with a damage assessment report that will really support the legal setup. ඒක කතා කරා ඊට පස්සේ අවසාන වශයෙන් President Councillor Mr. Chandaka Jasundara, he will talk about the claims and compensation and legal processes related to oil and HNS spill incidents. And after that, again, there will be a group discussion, and then we can come up with the draft document, and that will be finalized and defined in a couple of weeks' time, and will be shared among us. So that's the main program of these 2 days. Therefore, I really expect and request all of you to be with us, be with MIPA, and share all our ideas, all experiences. And if something happens in the future that we'll never wish, never expect, but if something happens in the future, we should not invent the same wheel again. And we have we have some document, or we have some solid procedures to work on. And in that procedure, all has our own space. That's I want to really stress here. So that's our main objective of this workshop. Therefore, I believe as Sri Lankans we can do that because this is a must. Because at the moment, I must mention that Sri Lanka, we are having very big hope on blue economy. We have very big hopes on marine spatial planning, and we have very big hopes on swap our debts to our environment to get some debt reliefs from the world arena. So therefore, we are mainly depending on our ocean. So it's your team, this you team, including me, are responsible to protect it. Because here, all the marine experts are here. Therefore, understand that. Therefore, this is not for us, this is for the country. So with that mindset, we'll engage in this. And I wish you a very fruitful, very, very cordial deliberations. At the end of tomorrow, I think we can come up with some solid document with us that will be our national oil and HNS response plan that we prepared for the country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for the key outline of this 2 days workshop on National Oil Spill Contingency Plan. Now the time to break the session for tea break for 20 minutes, and hoping to meet you all again to this hall by 10 to 11. Thank you very much.